You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we show business owners and entrepreneurs how to diversify into real estate by equipping you with the tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo. Hey guys, welcome to the Reinvest Podcast, episode 122. Really excited to jump into our topic today. Before we do that, though, I just want to highlight the importance of one of our taglines at Reinvest Capital, which is our real estate investment company, is we invest in people. You know, when we're investors, we're business owners, entrepreneurs, we're always focused at the bottom line, driving profit, because we don't do this for free or else we would lose money and it would not be sustainable. But how do you marry the idea of making profit in an honest way, in a way that's enriching to other people?
You can't do cash flowing real estate without people. I mean, it's going to take some form of tenant, whether it's a residential tenant, commercial tenant, employees, managers. I mean, people are just the business. So
behind all of our real estate assets are people, right? And with us today is Derek Morton, owner and principal of Net Gain Property Management Services. Excited to talk to you today, Derek, about your company and about how this topic of being concerned for the welfare and the support of your tenants really coincides with the end goal of an investor anyway. So give us an introduction. Who are you? How'd you get into this business?
I'm Derek Morton. I'm based here in Southern Utah, and in God's land, we say, here next to all the national parks. Like, it's nice to be an hour drive from Zion's. It's a pretty area. I've been in business for 9 years, and this is kind of a roundabout way. I'd been in the title industry for years and realized I'd kind of plateaued. And the joke that all my realtor friends hate, I said I'd much rather deal with tenants every day than real estate agents for the most part. And so we made the switch and just been on the rocket ship since then.
That's funny. So Seth and I have our licenses. You know, we do real estate, and anytime I feel like I interact with a title company, the timeline is always yesterday, and it's a hurry up and wait kind of business. So I don't know specifically what your pain points were with working with realtors, but I'm just going to blow the whistle, and I recognize that struggle. So anyway,
we're needy.
Yes, and it's all good. It's like, it was fine. Just some are more needy than others and don't always realize the depth of their neediness.
Yeah, we need an intervention.
If
how
you're
long
self-aware, it's good. But some are like, do you realize what you just asked and how impossible that is? So
how long were you in the title industry before you got into property management?
I was in the title industry for about 10, 12 years.
Okay.
So I'd been licensed title officer. So I did all the back end public records searched, and then got my escrow license. So I did closings. And then before I started Net Gain, I was doing all the marketing and taking the realtors and lenders and builders out to lunch and golf, and never got good at golf, but I still tried.
So yeah, how that lead into you starting Net Gain? I mean, what was that transition or the thought process?
Like I said, I just kind of felt like I'd plateaued there. I just kind of knew this was as good as it would get. Loved the company, but just realized I'm like, let's try something else. And so I had a good friend who was a real estate agent that a year before he had talked to me about, well, let's start a real estate brokerage. And I'm like, I don't want to do transactional real estate. I just don't. It's not what I like. It was part of what I was struggling with and just feeling like I was plateauing. And so we kind of just started talking and decided to go, what if we just looked at property management a little differently than most? And is there a market there? And so he partnered with me to start. Little did I know at the time, until I started doing research, I had to have a real estate brokerage, and I had to get a real estate license here in Utah.
Yeah.
And so we still did the original goal, just different. And then I bought him out about a year and a half later. And so we just kind of went in, and I didn't have any experience in property management, which was great because I could look at everything completely different.
Yeah.
It was also brutal because there's reasons people do things the way that they do. And so there was a lot of benefits, but also, spent the last 3 years cleaning up the messes of going, oh, this is why they did what they did. At the time, this makes sense now.
It's, I think with property management, one of the things I think of is Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And it just takes time to be in the business to encounter some of those firsts and change your policies to say this will never happen again to the best of our ability.
Yeah, we've got up in my office what's called the wall of shame. So we've got pictures of stuff that's real life that's happened. It's one of the best marketing pieces I have for owners. And I did virtual, and so my TikTok is basically a bunch of stuff that I'm like, look, here's exactly what happened. The tenant left the faucet on, and here's the mold in the basement. Enjoy.
That'll be great for our smaller pockets segment then, to maybe reference some of those wall of shame moments. So one of the things you had said off camera and in some of the notes leading into today's episode, you guys find private investors to purchase housing for people coming out of homelessness, domestic violence situations. You partner with local providers to increase mental health access for tenants. Talk about some of that as a differentiator in your property management company than somebody else.
So at the time that I started NetGain, I was serving on the board for our local homeless shelter. I had a friend that I'd always been heavily involved in the community, and he was serving as chair of the board, and he'd wanted me to do it for years. And I was finishing up another board commitment, and I said, okay, let's look at it. So we'd always talked about the need of housing and how to help them. And so everyone was really excited, like, oh, cool, you're going to start a property management. You're going to do this. But I also had to figure out, how do I balance the need, or not the need, but to protect the owner's investment, because some of these clients are a little bit more high risk. And so we kind of were trying to figure out and balance some stuff. And then the first house that we did, we just kind of stumbled across it. I had an investor that, if you believe in divine intervention, I think this is a good example of it. The house he's like, it just speaks to me. And he wanted to do student housing and just do room rentals for it. And I'm like, cool, this is not in the best part of town. The house at the time had 20 people living in a 6-bedroom house, and like 15 cats and dogs. Home Depot got ticked and walked off pet fees because they didn't want to. No, they were not charging pet fees. So like the house was so bad, Home Depot didn't even want to pull the carpet.
Wow!
And walked off the job.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I couldn't blame them either. My kids still call it the stinky house. And my oldest is 19, and he still refers to it as the stinky house. And so he didn't like the idea, like a student house. I'm like, dude, we can do it, but because of the area, distance from campus, like, you're going to really need to invest, and let's do something. And he was just kind of like, I don't know. And he's like, but this house is just speaking to me. And so I kind of threw, and I said, well, I don't know what this looks like, how we're going to do it, but what do you think about this idea? If we just did transitional housing, we did room rentals for men and women coming out of homelessness and domestic violence. Let's talk to the Care and Share, which is our local homeless shelter, and the case managers. And so he took a leap of faith and bought it. Did some necessary updates, new carpet, obviously, and paint and a few other things. And it was eye-opening because we moved 3 in. And while we weren't excited, like necessarily, it wasn't like this gorgeous house and everything, like they were stoked. And it was eye-opening because you watch and you would see them be able to celebrate small victories in their lives. And then you would see some of the challenges. I wish people fully understood the level of humility it takes for someone to leave a situation, whether it's checking into a homeless shelter or into a DV shelter. It takes a lot of humility and strength because your life is completely different the minute you walk through those doors. And so about a week before we opened the house, I also had another realization because, everyone knows in property management that, you're going to get yelled at. sometimes deserved, sometimes not. And so like basically I was running my business like, oh, cool, I'm getting yelled at again. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, this tenant's actually kind of right. We sucked. I don't appreciate getting yelled at, but we failed here. Like, okay, like I can't get mad at them because I know I'm not always the best if someone fails me on my response, depending on the day. And so we just kind of started to focus, and I'm like, okay, like how do I not suck? How do we build this so that I can get yelled at less, right? The nature of the business is there's going to be, issues that come up and people don't always handle them the best or don't fully understand, but how do I minimize this? And then, like I said, a week later, we opened up this house and started to work with those that had really, fallen on hard times, addiction. You had a lot of mental health. It helped me understand better the hurdles and triggers for some of these people, and kind of start to recognize what in current tenants, how do we intervene to help them so that
how many properties like this are you doing now? I mean, is it just the one property still, or are you doing multiple properties that are housing people like this?
At one point in time, we had 4 going and about 22 rooms. Right now, because of just lack of funding that has come, we're back down to this house and then an upstairs that we've got that's a female house. So we've got 9 rooms that we go, but we still just throughout our properties will work with these organizations and help them find housing. And so like with the most important thing that I've learned through all this is I'm a firm believer, looking back at my life and talking to so many of these tenants over the years, and seeing, even in my own kids and seeing friends, there's certain moments, and unfortunately you don't always recognize them at the time, that the proper intervention is life-changing. Whether it's walking away from a situation, whether it's getting someone the support that they need to keep them housed, or just anything along those lines. There's those moments that are those forks in the road that make all the difference. And so running our company, understanding that, and my staff is awesome in that, to where we can have brutally honest conversations. And sometimes I'm like, we've got to make this hard decision, and they'll vouch for them, or sometimes I'm vouching for them and they're like, no. So the conversations are completely different on how we handle it, instead of like, here's this lease violation, they're not paying rent, here's this, and so they've got to be out. It's, here's the resources that can help them. If they're doing this and communicating, we can work with them. And so from there, we've built out different options. So like during COVID, we realized rents were increasing astronomically, right? And but income wasn't at the same level. So you're still asking for the same 3 times rent to income, and you're basically pricing out lots of families. And so we made the decision, and it was hard, like it was counterintuitive. We actually dropped our rent to income to 2 times rent to income.
Right.
And then with that, to still protect the owners, we were counterintuitive and increased the deposits. So our standard deposit, instead of 1 times rent, so if rent's $1,500, the deposit $1,500, we do 1.5 times the rent.
Did you have any owners push back when you guys made some of those changes? Or, I mean, because you guys don't own any of these properties, you're just managing them, correct?
Yep. We had some terrified owners. But we, when we increased the deposits, they felt a little bit better about it. But then with that, we did a lot of research on the security deposit alternatives. And so luckily I use Appfolio for my software. And so at the same time, Obligo integrated with them. So the tenant pays 10% of the rent as an annual fee. And then on move out, we just pull, from their account whatever charges there were. So now for the $1,500 rent, we have a $2,250 deposit. They're paying $225. It's non-refundable. So they pay $225 and say there's only just cleaning, carpet cleaning, and a few minor repairs, and they're paying $1,000. They're able to actually keep $1,200 in their pocket, and we've only pulled $1,200 total for the fee and then the repairs. And so it makes our properties more attractive, and owners like it because they get the additional protection. And then we used Rhino, but there was some issues with Rhino because there's another qualification. And so sometimes you're like, hey, this guy's going to be a double deposit. Credit's not quite there. And then Rhino's like, you don't meet my qualifications. And I'm like, crap, they're screwed. And so my favorite one is I partnered with a company called Lease Guard. They're kind of small and growing. They actually started here in Utah. And one of my buddies, an insurance agent, that kind of hooked up with them, was like, what do you think? And I'm like, I like it. And so they pay an insurance premium each month. So like for the same $1,500 and $2,200 deposit, they would pay $50 a month in a premium, just like you would do with your car or renter's insurance and stuff like that. You pay that premium. So over that year, they're only paying $600, but they've got $2,200 protection. And they're not having to come up with the upfront cost, because especially during COVID, how many people were selling their investments and then the tenants are out? How do we do this? They weren't planning on having to come up with another deposit. It's 30 days before they get it. So how do we do this? Well, I'll pay $50 a month. It's less. If they're there for 2 years, it's only $1,200, and they're still cheaper than even if you just did 1x the rent. And so those different things. And then that looked where all of a sudden we discovered Best Egg. So for those tenants that aren't able to pay rent on time, they have a flexible rent option, which luckily, once again, these guys are integrated with a lot of the management softwares. And so for a little bit of additional fee, so Best Egg fronts us the $1,500 rent, and then those people can pay it back weekly for just a little bit additional fee. And so our owners are made whole. The tenants, like, sometimes that's easier for their budget. We can just pay weekly, or we can pay bi-weekly. I know there's a couple management companies that I've heard that's just how they do rent. They pay weekly. That's become a little bit more popular there in the Midwest because it just fits better with the tenant's budget. And it's an adjustment for the owners because they're used to like, oh, I get this, rent in my account by this day each month. But they don't have the same level of delinquencies.
I think one of the nice things about having these third-party services that you have gone out and identified is it standardizes a way for you to work with somebody when these issues arise. When you don't have that, it's just kind of a pass-fail, yes-no scenario where you draw a hard line in the sand, or you're faced with making these case-by-case decisions, which is very difficult. Either if you're self-operating, it's just an added toll of owning property because your time commitment and your mental energy is taxed, or if you're trying to scale a property management company, you can't make those many decisions all the time. So it's giving you guys a way to standardize it while giving flexibility to a tenant. That's pretty cool. Did all this precipitate out of COVID? You guys went out into the marketplace and said, what options are out there, or what pushed you?
It was kind of COVID. And then, like I said, just working with people. I mean, our number one priority, despite everything that we say and what we do to try to help our tenants, we have to protect the owner's investment. And part of that is, how do we get it filled? And here's the hurdles that we're seeing, and we can just put our head in the sand and be like, I don't know how to fix this. This just is what it is. Or we can figure out how to get creative. How do we, are there options out there for this? We do a lot of research. I go to a lot of conferences, and so I can kind of see some of the trends and different things that are coming into play. And then I just ask people, my dream product right now that's not out there. I'm sure you guys have heard of resident benefit packages, right?
Explain that, yeah.
Okay, so resident benefit packages are basically, and second nature is like the 800-pound gorilla that does it. And it's a basic product, so they've got credit reporting for the tenant, but then they got move-in concierge, and then there's an insurance aspect of it, so the renter's insurance can be part of it. Filter delivery, because that's actually how they started. And a lot of management companies have jumped on because they're like, cool, that's another revenue stream, right? But really, it's kind of a crap product because outside of the credit reporting, it doesn't really benefit the tenants. So, but it's like, oh, it's a rent benefit package. And they're like, really doesn't benefit me. But if you look, because if we're really trying to, how do we protect the owner's investment? and find a win-win. And I have nothing against finding additional revenue streams in a company. Like, I'm a big proponent of it, to make sure that your time is worth it. But you could use that same $35, $40 a month. And we're actually the same people that have done Lease Guard. We've kind of had conversations with them a little bit to try to build this product. So what if you'd had a resident benefit package for the same $40 that had like a disability package? So someone got hurt in an accident that paid them out, say, $6,000. That's going to be 2 to 3 months worth of rent in most places, right? So now rent's protected. So the tenant's now paying for that. Now, on top of that, what if you had a mental health aspect where they have access to mental health? So that when they're struggling and they have different things that come up, that they have someone to talk to be able to work through. And then you have the credit reporting. Like, that's a true resident benefit package that still protects the owner, allows us as management companies to make money, and can benefit the tenant and keep them housed and minimize the turnover.
Mm-hmm. And so are you guys putting together that package, or is that the company, the third-party company, Lease Guard, that puts together a package like that?
We've pitched that to them when we've had conversations. They're still researching, trying to figure out how to build that. So if anyone has an idea on how to build that, I am open for business to have that conversation. Because, like I said, that's a dream product. Like, that solves so many problems.
Yeah.
But don't you think the mental health access side of things, I mean, I just feel like there's so many publicly funded resources in all of these different communities where those things are available. What's the difference between just having a registry of connecting them to the right people versus having a package that you're having them pay for?
The biggest hurdle is, especially the free resources are chock full. So here's a true story. So we had to have a tenant in one of our student housing move on. He was bipolar, and had a break. He was old enough that he was transitioning off his parents' insurance, while trying to get on Obamacare, all while struggling with mental health at the university here, and had to wait 6 weeks to be able to find a therapist to be able to see him. In the meantime, he threatened to kill the roommate's dog, and was naked in the back, just thrashing a fire pit at 3:00 in the morning. And so that's the hard part. Like, yeah, there's a lot of publicly funded stuff available, but the list to get in there is so long. And so that $35 or $40, they could get access. They can keep the same therapist, and be able to develop that relationship so they can really try to work through. Most mental health, I don't want to say most, but there's enough mental health that just a month to 2 months just to be able to work through some of the hurdles that are going through, to learn some tools does wonders. And then there's others that need the more long-term.
Right.
So on let's say, while this is maybe trying to get figured out at scale, if somebody wanted to pilot this at a local level, they could find maybe a mental health care provider and have maybe a preferred partnership with them, so to speak, where they could be a counselor on hand. And, if we had a tenant sign up, they would have an introductory counseling call, and then the cost structure would allot them so much time to that counselor.
Yep.
Yeah, it is an interesting idea.
The hard part with that, so we tried that. Like, we had a partnership with BetterHelp. And so the big hurdle with that is, and it makes sense. Like, as I say this isn't a knock. Like, I don't know. It's a step I don't know if I could make, right? So I would have to make the referral the way it was set up. So who wants to come to their landlord and be like, I'm struggling, right?
No, right.
Yeah. You feel like you're blowing the whistle on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, that was a huge hurdle. It didn't work. So if it's part of that package and they know they have access, here's how to contact, here's this, they can do it on their own terms. And I don't even need to know, and I don't care to know. And so it takes away that big hurdle. And we've got, so there's 7 Cups that's out there. That's free, 7cups.com. that's got free mental health, and then you've got BetterHelp that can do 1 month for free, and stuff. So there are those resources that if it does come up, that we currently refer them to. But yeah, so it's just learning and trying stuff and trying to minimize the hurdles to get the results that we want and need. So that's just kind of why we're looking at going the route that we are.
Have you guys done any research to know a benchmark for your company, how you stack up to other property management companies in terms of vacancy rates? Or I'm just trying to think, we had that kind of a little conversation off camera about how in the long run, if somebody's like, it's just the right thing to do from a people perspective to treat people like people. But then to reinforce that philosophy is not at odds with being profit driven. The two can go hand in hand. Have you guys seen your strategies help investors on the bottom line?
Yeah. And we've been able to tell owners the stories, and full disclosure, I mean, we have one that just recently like blew up in our face. Like we bent over backwards to help the tenant, and we've got hosed bad, like way bad. And I'm bitter and having that conversation with myself going, don't let one bad apple ruin what you're trying to do.
Right.
And so some days I'm better at not failing at that than others right now, because it's pretty hot. But overall, being able to go and help and keep them, and showing a little bit more patience, and instead of having to file for an eviction, we're able to find the resources to where the tenant's able to pay the rent. The other thing is, with it, and this sounds frou-frou and, and everything, but I like to be able to sleep at night. And so like sometimes in this, you have to have very, very difficult conversations. And like, I'm pretty empathetic, and it's hard sometimes just like make those decisions. So like, if I'm able to be like, I have given you all these options and you didn't take them, like that's on you.
Right.
And not on me. Cause I'm like, I've given you 10 options and you chose none of them.
Right.
And so, that's on you, and I can sleep well at night. It minimizes the stress.
So where is your company today? I so you guys focus, obviously, net gain, property management. It's kind of in the name. It seems like that might be kind of a double meaning there. Can you explain kind of that meaning and where your company's at today? How many people are you servicing?
So we've got just under 1,000 tenants, 650 units. January 1st, we made the decision to expand across the state. So we're currently serving 5 counties out of the 26, but we've got Salt Lake County where, the capital is, and Utah County for Provo-Orem. And then we've got St. George in the southern corner, and then Iron County, then Beaver. But the name just kind of, the original name was going to be, I have a nickname called Demo, where a lot of my friends call me. And so we were jokingly saying Demo's Property Pimps. But my wife shot it down. I had a logo designed at one point in time.
She's so small-minded.
She's so wise.
I know. I was like, I get it, but I'm still, you cheated me out of a moment here.
Would have been funny.
And so we went with net gain. We were just, me and my buddy that I partnered with to start, we were just kind of looking, how do we just combine different words that would work. And that's just kind of how we settled on it. And we liked the vibe of it. And then when we had the logo designed, we liked the vibe of it, and that's what it is. And then it just it's kind of morphed that, trying to make sure.
Now it's morphed into like, it's a net gain for your tenants and your property owners, what you guys are doing, focusing on mental health and really caring about the people part of the business.
Well, and what's nice, like, I mean, we've grown large enough that, I mean, if I can be pretty choosy on my owners. And so like, we've got awesome owners because I'm like, here's what's important to me. Here's part of the questions. Is that important to you? And, and so I don't hire anyone or everyone, for owners. Cause it's like, this may not be a fit for you. And that's okay. Like, you have the right to run the property the way you want. This is the way I do it. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Like, we can still be friends. We've fired some owners over the last couple of years that it's like, okay, like our philosophies are no longer, in line. And that makes things easier for my employees, makes it easier for me.
Yeah.
It makes things easier for the owners because they know already, like, hey, we're going to try to help and we're going to work with them. And then, they know that we've done everything we can if there has to be a parting with a tenant, and that owner is protected.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, we're going to go into our smaller pocket segment. So, Derek, go ahead and tell us about one of your worst real estate deals. It could have been something that a real estate deal that you had personally, or it could have been a nightmare tenant scenario. What went wrong, and then what did you learn from it?
So we're going to flash back to the one that just recently failed that I've referenced twice. So,
okay.
Going back to the mental health, like, they lived with us for 2 years and they just struggled in anything and everything. I won't go through their sob story, but like anything and everything, to where the mom ended up having to be put into a mental facility for a little bit. Just life, like, it broke her, and I can't fault her for it because she lasted longer than I probably would have, right? The issue then became, while she was in there and the family wasn't living in the house, they turned off the heat. And
sounds
we
like
get
a prudent thing to do.
Yeah. And so we'd work with them, and one of the organizations wasn't able to help them out on rent. And so we'd been a little bit more patient than we typically would because we like this organization. And then we just kind of were like, well, their lease is up anyways. We're not going to renew them, which was the biggest mistake. We should have just evicted them. It would have saved a little bit. And so we go do the move out inspection. And of course, they've left a bunch of stuff. What we didn't know is they basically had flooded out the basement. And so now we had a major mold issue.
Oh, man.
Did they do this intentionally, or it was just negligent?
No, the pipe underneath the kitchen sink froze. Now, they intentionally did not give us a heads up. And this next part is intentional as well, which is like I said, I'm really struggling deep inside not to be bitter and be like, screw everyone. I have to tell my wife and kids, I said, I love people. People are great. Individuals are idiots sometimes. And so as long as I differentiate, like, life is good. And so we're going through everything, and we require renters insurance and everything for the tenants. And usually they use ours because same price, like, I'll just pay it as part of rent and life's easy. Well, these guys have their own policy. It's fine. So we go to make a claim on it. The problem is that the claim, they won't respond to the insurance company because they know what they did. And so now we can't make a claim with them. And so we have to use the owner's insurance, which is now going to probably end up suing the tenants, the insurance, all while we don't know exactly how big the bill is because the mold is bad. And that's been a cluster that we're trying to work through.
So why was the tenant's insurance not able to process it just because they couldn't get in contact with the tenant? I feel like that has to happen pretty often.
That's what we're trying to figure out, which is why now I've told the owner, I said, you're going to get your insurance involved and you're going to get an attorneys involved because it shouldn't matter. Like, we can document this was on the tenant. We can document all of this. Like, so that's what we're working through now. That's our fun mess. And that's by far, we've had plenty of just funny, goofy stuff, but that one's like still just pure unadulterated anger.
So what's the lesson for us with properties, or us managing property management companies? What should we be looking out for? What's the lesson in that?
So the lesson for us, like, that I'm working with my attorney. So now moving forward, while tenants can have their own policy, I'm looking at the legalities to make sure that they're going to use ours because we can't risk. They can have their own to protect their stuff, but they will pay for our tenant liability policy. Because like this will be $100,000 bill.
Ooh, my gosh, that's bad.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll have to send you guys the pictures and stuff or the videos.
Oh my word.
The mold was so bad. I'm an idiot because I don't usually go in with like masks and stuff. And so like, yeah, it knocked me out for a week.
Oh
So
no.
Oh my
just
gosh.
sick. So it's, so that's the lesson. That's what we're working through. And like, and the thing is sometimes you just have to still know when to cut,
Mhm.
and just be like, I know, yes, it's just another month because their lease is up. Sometimes even if it's just another month, you just have to, here's the lines. No need to draw it. You've done everything. And while we don't know exactly when it flooded, like I'm still firmly convincing myself that had we done that, that owner's property would have been better protected.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's not a matter of if, but when something like that happens. In terms of when you're dealing with people, it's a messy business. It can be. And so, if you're listening to this, you probably have your war stories and your scars. But you refine your processes. And when sometimes you take a chance on someone, you don't get it right all the time. It's just going to happen. So it comes with the nature. You want to go in eyes wide open. All right, we're going to go into what we call our Lil Nugget. So Derek, we want one little nugget, one practical takeaway or piece of advice for our listeners that they can implement to their real estate investing business. I know you gave us something related to the smaller pockets. What's something else, practical or fundamental, that our listeners can apply?
My basic philosophy is just try not to suck. And when you do,
Try not to suck.
That's a t-shirt. That'd be a good t-shirt.
And just fix it. Like if you have that philosophy, and everyone's definition of sucking is completely different. So I recognize that. And so we've kind of developed ours, and that's part of our sales pitch to owners. Like, what makes you different? I try not to suck. And they're like, I'm in. And
that's all it takes.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. So
I think behind that though is a desire to continually improve.
Yeah, right.
It's one, owning when you do suck. First of all, you said that in the beginning of the episode. Man, this tenant's kind of right. We all want to maintain our ego, and it's hard to separate yourself from that enough to realize, hey, there's actually an area of improvement that I could press into here. So it's being humble. And then number two, it's just that continual pursuit to get better. It took me a while to realize that, like, failure, I don't have to be intimidated or insecure about that, because in reality, anybody else that I admire who's successful, it's that Anthony Vicino thing. Say it's the mountain of failure things.
Oh, right. Yeah, the person that you're looking at that's successful, the only difference between you and that person is he's standing on a bigger pile of failures than you are.
That's it.
He's just done it more. He's failed more. He's refined his processes more. And
anybody who says no is lying.
Yeah,
there's no way.
That is a good lesson.
If you're gonna fail gloriously.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, what's been one of the best resources in your business development?
Books.
Nice.
Hmm.
What have been a couple of the book titles that have been most formational for you?
So, Sally Hogshead's Fascinate.
Wait. What is the book title?
Fascinate.
Fascinate. Okay.
It's one of my favorite ones.
What's the premise of that?
So basically, just helps you understand kind of your personality characteristics.
Okay.
So she's got two quotes in there that are just awesome. Like, one is, the world's not changed by people who just sort of care. And then the second one is something along like, the world doesn't need less of you, it needs more of who you are. And so just kind of embrace your quirks, because we all try to like comply, like, I've got to fit in, I've got to do this. And she's just like, no, like, you are this person, you are this, like, embrace it. And I've read it like 12 years ago, and I read it about every 2 to 3 years. And it was just, it was life changing. It was funny because I was in a boring industry at the time, in the title industry, right? Few things are more boring. And so I was trying to figure stuff out there, like, how do you do different? And I just realized, okay, I'll just be me. Like, I'm not boring. And so that works.
Yeah. You don't really fit the property manager mold, I will say, in a good way.
That's good. It's
like fascinating.
That's probably one of the best compliments that I can ever receive. And then the other one that I just recently finished that I love is Who Not How.
Oh yeah.
I had that one pop up a couple times on the show here. That's a good one.
Yeah, Who Not How, and then you've got The Gap and the Gain. That was the second part of that series, and then the 10x is easier than 2x, which is the third one. So, but that Who Not How is just like, it makes sense, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I've thought about that wrong. So I've just been, over the last year, like, okay, who do I need to do this, and who do I do this, and who do I know this, and sometimes it's just I'm going to throw stuff out in the universe, and sometimes it sticks and someone likes it, and other times it doesn't, and so I just sit on it and just keep throwing stuff out in the universe. Yeah. It's amazing the who's that show up.
Those are such good questions to ask and think about, you know what I mean? Once you start throwing some brain power behind it, it's amazing what you figure out, with the who's. So
before we end our episode, I would be remiss if I did not highlight this really interesting detail that you had put down. You run one of the largest dodgeball tournaments in Utah.
I used to. We killed it about 3 years ago.
Tell me about that, man. I'm a huge dodgeball fanatic.
Oh, so I'm going to have to bring it back.
I'll fly out there. I'll bring my squad.
So part of the reason my buddy that wanted me on the homeless shelter board is I'm just a goofball. And so I just let's come something up. And so they did the normal golf tournament and everything. For fundraiser, but he's like, we need a second one. And so I just kind of all of a sudden was thinking, I'm like, what if we did a dodgeball tournament? And he's like, this is awesome. And I remember pitching it to the board, and we had some pretty diplomatic people, I guess is the best way to put it. Very straight-laced people. And so I was pitching it to them. They're like, that would be great for the kids. And I'm like, you missed the point. This is adults. And they're like, what? And so the first year we did it, we had 16 teams, which was way more than I thought we were going to have. And we just kind of made it up as we went. And so we had some ideas after the second one, and the second year is when it really just took off. And so we had an opening ceremonies. Each team came out to a fog machine, and they got to choose their intro song.
Oh, that's cool.
We had balloon arch. We had it in the high school gym, so we had full stands come out. Like, it was a running joke, so we'd have a chiropractor there giving free adjustments. He's like, this is the best advertising we ever did. We had a massage therapist.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
We brought in mascots. Like, we would, those intros. We would boo the refs and allow people to throw stuff at the refs. And then the third year we did it, was when it really took off. It was right before COVID hit. And so we had 27 teams, and we're actually drawing people from all over the Western United States.
Whoa. Now, didn't you say that Ben Stiller came to one of those, and that was the inspiration for the movie Dodgeball?
Yeah, I wish. No, we did at one point in time. The lady that ran the Karen Share, she tweeted at him. She included him in a tweet, and he got a response. So we geeked out about that.
No way. Yeah, that was like big moment right there.
We'd use one year we brought in a Cameo. So if you're familiar with Cameo, the app to where you can people pay them, right? So we had Michael Buffer do a little video about let's get ready to rumble, and so we did that one year. That's cool. Had the Jimi Hendrix version. Someone decided if this is a real sporting event, we got to have the national anthem, and so we found someone to play the Jimi Hendrix version of it, on the electric guitar. And we felt kind of bad because we didn't tell the university's ROTC wanted to be part of it. And we're like, cool, let's do this. But we didn't tell them that we were going to do that. So they were kind of caught off guard. They were looking at us and, so it was a lot of fun. The hard part is my committee got smaller and smaller every year. And then it got killed by COVID. So we couldn't do it for 2 years. So we were able to bring it back for one more year and had about 18 teams. But then I just lost my committee, and the business was growing, and the lady that was running the Karen Share left. And I'm just I just can't do it by myself.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking to put on an event like that.
That's wild.
So
so right now I'm actually probably going to partner with another management company and do a fundraiser. We're going to do a mini golf.
Nice
fundraiser, and so we're coming up with that. I'm going to do here in a week. We're doing a mini golf for our student housing to promote it. And we're actually going to have this. It's portable mini golf, so we're going to go up and through this apartment building So they get
wow.
the full tour while playing mini golf. And so we're going to use that to build ideas. And then me and the other management company will be like, okay, now that I've done this once, like, how do we do this? And we'll do it up in Salt Lake because that's where they're based out of. And
That
we'll
is
do it
very cool.
if it's some of the nonprofits. So I'm still up for doing crazy stuff. What I'd really love to do, and it's too difficult to pull off. Have you ever seen Holy Moly?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that Steph Curry basically did insane mini golf holes, and it was on ABC, and it had Rob Riggle and I can't remember the other guy as the announcers. But yeah, like if I could look on YouTube, Holy Moly,
something like that,
and just enjoy that rabbit hole. You can thank me later, or hate me later, and I'm okay. Because it's a good time suck once you go in, because it's just crazy. But yeah, that would be the dream, is to be able to do like Holy Moly type holes, because it's just insane.
Funny.
But
That sounds like a Dude Perfect episode or something. Derek, what does it look like for people to find out more about you, follow your guys' success, and some of the innovative stuff you're doing?
So the best way to find us is look at our website. It's netgainpm.com, NETGAIN PM for propertymanagement.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing kind of the philosophy of property management with us and what your company's doing. Yeah, we wish you guys the best of luck in the future as you continue to grow and implement this and change the perspective for your owners and for your tenants on what that relationship can look like. So that's awesome.
So no problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
Awesome, man. As always, excited that you joined us for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If you want to learn how you can use your hard-earned capital to diversify into real estate, go to our website, reinvestcapital.us, and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper.